Hey everyone, this is PrinceBrightstar. So with me finally caught up on the story and with episode 6's release happening this week, I wanted to take a little time to reflect, give you some of the things I've noticed coming out of the trailers, and even provide some theories as to what we're going to see in episode 6. Just to catch you up if you're new here, when the events of episode 5 came to a close, the black holes that threatened everything were stopped, and Harriet had become the goddess of Omega. Out in the Arcs dimension, however, things weren't so fortunate. Characters from Omega began appearing, specifically one that looked like Harriet named Shiva, a new face we hadn't seen before called Mitra, and a familiar face, Valna Lasik. We've seen several things revealed during the trailers that have come out since those events took place, and while I can't just show them to you because of SEGA's policies, I'm hoping at least some screenshots will work. Let's start with the first trailer for episode 6. The first thing that I need to call out even before we look at what's happening is we have SEGA once again reusing music from elsewhere in the series. In particular, the music that plays through this trailer is a remake of Relic's Awakening from Phantasy Star Universe. We open in a large conference or tactical room, with the heads of various divisions within ARCs present. This includes the former council members, as well as some unexpected faces such as Theodore and Oak. We're then treated to the voice of Harriet, speaking through Lisa. Normally Lisa's eyes are red, but when Harriet is speaking, Lisa's eyes glow blue. Just as a side note, Lisa didn't get glowing red eyes until sometime after the end of episode 3. It was probably a retcon done for the omnibus missions. Back on the main bridge, Shao suddenly panics, asking if security was really that lax. It's assumed he heads for the mothership, and we follow once Sierra detects intruders, Shiva's gang. This attack is a tactical strategy of cutting off the head to win a battle. We're then treated to the player and Matoy taking down one of the new enemies, Lumen Mechs. I want to note that one of the enemies we saw in an earlier trailer is a very similar look to an enemy in Phantasy Star Online's Ultimate Mode, called a Merlan. Next, we have Mitra explaining we somehow saw through her camouflage. Mitra proclaims herself the 20th seat, the false goddess. It's in the final moments of what we're presented we see something about her character which I'll go into shortly. Finally, we have the title for episode 6, which is Stars. I'll go a bit more in depth with that later as well. Looking further at a second trailer, we can see many enemies on Lilliput have been boosted, supposedly by the technology Shiva is using. This is even impacting the Darkers. Following this, we're shown the new class, and this one is kind of interesting. While to the general public it is known as Phantom, when you dive into the data, internally it's called Villain. The way this class plays is it has standard attacks and shift attacks. I really won't be able to go more in detail until I actually get my hands on it at the start to understand it better. Through this segment we also hear a version of the Arkema slots or Arkema land theme played. Several new features including a redone Arcs Road system, along with daily and weekly targets which reward Meseta and experience is also featured. Skipping ahead a little, we have a look at the first emergency quest of episode 6, where we're attacking a group of ships called the Last Armada. Now thanks to the members of my Discord for pointing this out, it's more likely Last refers to how Shiva called herself the Last Goddess, rather than it being the final remaining ships the Photoners had. And hey, if you're not in the Discord, link is in the description below. The new AIS Vega is revealed here as well, a more powerful version of the former AIS, along with whom I have to assume is the designer for them. Alright, let's shift away from trailers and instead try looking more into the history of some of the names we've learned, and how they've been used here on Earth. Shiva is a Hindu deity associated with divine energy, time, and is a destroyer of evil. Once again, this association could link back to phantoms internally being called villains, and episode 6 could look to paint Arcs in not such a good light. The name Mitra, on the other hand, has origins in the ancient Indian scripture Rigveda, and it's in this we also see the name Valna. They, as a pair, seem to represent the light of dawn, Mitra, and the night sky, Valna. Okay, it's time to talk about the meaning behind the word stars. For those of you that are unaware, the word stars in this context does not mean giant balls of gas that provide heat and light to a planetary system, but rather, stars refers to the spirit. Whoa, that's quite the jump to make, isn't it, Brightstar? Where was this ever discussed in the series? In the songs that had lyrics. Think about it. Ever since Phantasy Star Online, there have been lyrics associated with the games of the Phantasy Star series. A lot of them talk about stars, but not all of them relate to this particular topic. As an example, in Episode 5, Legender is a battle hymn about fighting the Red Dragon. However, there's enough evidence at this point to support the notion that the lyrics have been hinting at events for a long time. Maybe I should try to break this down for you with a track that basically gave players a hint about what Episode 5's setting was, and how death in the Phantasy Star series is handled without anyone even realizing it. Even the track name is ironic in this context. Realization. The track opens with a very interesting lyric, waiting for shining stars to fall. This hints that someone or something is waiting for when someone's life has ended. This references that when a person wakes up after dying, they have no recollection of their former life, nor will they know the people they knew. Let's skip ahead a bit at this point. The track is broken up by an interlude, which separates the first area and the Train Ghidoran fight. It's here the song once again references waiting for shining stars to fall. One could say the person singing is in some kind of an in-between. They've left the living world they were in with their dead body. They are about to step into a world where anything is possible. They are on their way to the Akashic Record. They are on their way to Omega. The track crescendos at the end once Train Ghidoran appears, and the track begins talking about Wonderland.
Wonderland, my wonder soul, I'm with you, it's a miracle. Actual world, your actual soul, I'm in you, it's the real thing. I'll never learn how to get out the unfolding stardust of a long spiral.
Keep in mind, at this moment, it's important to not pay attention to what is appearing on the game screen, but rather what the lyrics are saying. Similar to how Alice discovered her own Wonderland. When a soul's body in the Phantasy Star canon dies, bearing any other special relic holding it elsewhere, that soul is released to the Akashic Record. This works with how the Dragonkin have their own reincarnation cycles since they're attached to Amduskia, and it works with how the first two generations of heroes in Algal were kept within a sword hidden within the Esper Mansion. In the context of Phantasy Star Online 2, Omega is Wonderland. Look, I get it, this is crazy. Who'd have thought SEGA would care so much about their game that they'd build this much lore into the music? And yet this is exactly what happened. We can even look back to Phantasy Star Portable 2 Infinity. There's a lyric there about a hole in the sky. Once again, another reference to the black hole that leads the Guardian to Omega. This means SEGA has had all of the plot of Phantasy Star Online 2 ready as far back as when Phantasy Star Portable 2 Infinity was still in development. This is even more evident when you realize Phantasy Star Portable 2 Infinity included a registration code that let players have a chance of playing in the Phantasy Star Online 2 alpha tests. So to put this music track in perspective, SEGA was hinting at the existence of Omega back in Episode 4, and it was realized in Episode 5. I'm not the only one that's diving into the lyrics of these tracks looking for clues. I definitely have to thank Earn & Key for their work on this as well. So with all that out of the way, I'd also like to leave you with a few predictions today. I'll give you my thoughts, put a percentage chance of it happening, and I'll leave it to you to debate it in the comments below on if you think this is correct. Number 1. Xiao dies or is in some other way incapacitated. Oh boy, opening on a bit of a doozy here, as it will mean the loss of the head of the Arcs. I can easily give this a 60% chance of happening just simply through what we learn from the trailers. Shao realizes there's an invader on the mothership, they question if security really was that lax, the player and Matoy are fighting the new mechs through the mothership, and in the most recent trailer, we have Sierra, the player, Matoy, Ulk, and Theodore all staring out the window, as if something horrible has just happened. We also haven't seen the mothership in any other footage so far. As a side note, did you ever notice that Xian's line seems to be named after mountains on Earth? Xian? Shao? Sierra? That being the case, there are plenty more potential family names where that came from. Simeon, Sivalik, Siorak, and Shell are all possible names. Number 2. Mitra is a Numen or Proto-Numen. I'm giving this a high 75% chance of being true, and it comes down to several factors. First, take a look at that headgear. Isn't that a bit big for their head? Not just only that, but take a look around their eyes. There are triangles. There is one other game in the series where characters had triangles around their eyes. The original Phantasy Star Online. Specifically, the Fonural, or Female Numen Force. The triangles aren't exactly in the same spot, but if you consider their ears, that headdress makes a lot of sense. It's not for her hair, they're for Mitra's ears. Number 3A. Shiva's supporters are all named after the mags of Phantasy Star Online. This one kind of plays into the PSO idea as well, but it was also just something I noticed as being a coincidence. Another new character could easily be named something that wasn't a mag. Still, there are plenty of choices to choose from. 5% chance of this one happening. Number 3B. On the flip side of this theory, also having a 5% chance is that the names may instead continue to use the names of the Rigvedic deities. And this wouldn't be the first time we've seen these names in the series. Agni and Indra already made appearances back in Phantasy Star Online, associated with certain rare weapons forces could use. I'm also familiar enough with the translation team to know that this is also the thinking they're using as well, hence the change from Valna to Valna later on in Episode 5. Now for the theory that is the farthest out there, and yet the one I want to see happen. Number 4. Shiva will be betrayed by Valna. This goes back to my reaction at seeing the credits of Episode 5. I can only give this a 1% chance because I have no proof that this will happen. But I will not let this go, and it makes sense if you consider everything we've learned about the series. Valna is a wild card in all this. This is spoiling the Algal series a bit, but this is important. For those of you that missed the Let's Play, Valna has the last name Lasik. Now, in the Algal series, there was an antagonist in both the original Phantasy Star and Phantasy Star End of the Millennium that went by the same name. After seeing that name in the credits, I researched how their name appeared in Japanese, and in both games, it's an exact match to what we saw in Episode 5. The hero Elisa Landale fought against Lasik to avenge her brother Nero's death, while Chaz and company needed to retrieve an item that was stolen from a Dazorian temple. Lasik said he would be reborn thanks to the power of Algal's profound darkness. However, when Chaz's group defeated the profound darkness, that spell would have been broken. This in turn would have forced Lasik into the Akashic Record and onto Omega, where they would be reborn as Valna Lasik. He is evil through and through, as he was the one that assisted the profound darkness. This Lasik says that he is loyal to his queen, but what if that queen is not actually Shiva? What if that queen is yet another profound darkness, one that has not been seen since Algal, and now that he has escaped and remembers himself, they stop at nothing to reclaim their power and lead us right back to that trinary system of planets. It's a stretch to be sure, but I tell you, the proof is in the fact that Elisa and Rutsu were both on Omega as well. If we have a new field appear called the Air Castle, I will be ecstatic for the future of the series. Episode 6 begins on April 24th, and I can't wait. This is going to be the first time I won't wait for a translation, as I believe unlike Phantasy Star Online 2S and Idola Phantasy Star Saga, since I'll be able to see how the characters interact with each other in a 3D space, I'll be better able to provide my own reaction, despite not understanding Japanese. However, I also plan to revisit the story once translations are available. That's it from me for now. If you've enjoyed today's content, please do make sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified whenever I go live, or whenever I put out a new video. In addition to that, I also have a Discord. Link to that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. This is PrinceBrightstar signing off. I'll catch you next time.